With San Francisco signing Robert Saleh as their defensive coordinator, he basically is going to have free range on the defensive side of the roster, and he's clearly identified a weak point from San Francisco's roster last season, the safety position. The last time he was with the 49ers, Robert Saleh had Jimmie Ward as a safety, one of the most versatile safeties across the league. He could line up in man coverage, play zone coverage, and also was extremely aggressive in the running game. So there should be no surprise, Saleh has been looking for Jimmie Ward 2.0, and it looks like he's most recently found it in Jason Pinnock. This is what Saleh had to say about Pinnock. We just look at Pinnock. His size, length, speed, his athleticism, we're like, man, he'd be a really cool free safety, Jimmie Ward type in our system. And that's a big reason Saleh selected him during the 2021 NFL Draft in the 5th round. Then, he was actually playing the cornerback position, so it did take him a little bit to learn the safety position at the NFL level. But his athleticism is absurd. His relative athletic score is 9.78, and he ran his 40-yard dash in 4.49 seconds. And because of his background as a cornerback, like Ward, he can go line up on your best tight end and shut him down. Or he can play a more traditional safety alignment, read your quarterback size, jump the route, and either break up the pass or pick it off. And in the running game, not only does he do a nice job of making open field tackles, but you can also put him in a box safety role and he can play almost like a linebacker. During the last 2 years for the New York Giants, Pinnock has started in 32 games, registered 170 tackles, 5 sacks, 2 interceptions, and 1 defensive touchdown, with the sole defensive touchdown coming on a pick 6 of 102 yards. Pinnock's best season came in 2023, where he registered a PFF grade of 67.7, which was 3rd among all NFL safeties. He also allowed a solid 79.4 passer rating when targeted by opposing quarterbacks, with even PFF saying he's the best player in the Giants secondary during the season, and it was vital for the Giants to re-sign him. So what happened during the 2024 season to change their mind? Well, they changed defensive coordinators. They went from Wink Martindale in the 2023 season to Shane Bowen in the 2024 season. Wink understood how to use Pinnock like a defensive chess piece. He moved him all around the field, sent him on blitzes, manned him up on tight ends in a similar way we saw Jimmie Ward be utilized in San Francisco. But Bowen used him just like a safety. And not a safety that can cover tight ends, but just a pure zone safety almost. He used a bunch of zone coverage, and overall, the Giants' defense wasn't the greatest last year. So if your team's not doing great, it's hard for you to stand out as a player. But now with Jason Pinnock re-teaming up with Robert Saleh, he's going to be used the way Robert Saleh had the vision with him bringing him into the league. And I'm excited for it. I think that Robert Saleh should be able to unlock something with Pinnock, the same thing we saw during the 2023 season where he was the 3rd highest graded safety. To really emphasize this point, in this video, I want to dive a little bit deeper into the player that is Jason Pinnock by examining his film. Initially, we'll be examining him in man coverage. On this play specifically, he's manned up on this tight end in a similar way we've seen Jimmie Ward a ton of times in his career. But here, focus on how smart he is. He's able to quickly identify the tight end screen, identifies his wide receiver blocking his cornerback, so he shoots over the top, and then you get to see how athletic he is, actually being able to make it to the tight end and break up the pass on this play on 3rd down. In a similar way on this play, Pinnock is manned up to this wide receiver in the center of this bunch formation, but because he breaks out hard and tries to pick off this cornerback, Pinnock understands that he is going to become responsible for Justin Jefferson running a wheel route, so he does a good job of identifying that and then recovering on this play. But he doesn't just recover, he's able to identify Jefferson being targeted, turns his head back to the ball, and breaks it up. And even if you think your wide receiver for sure has made the grab, Pinnock does a good job of identifying where the ball is and then punching it out. Like here against the Packers, even though it looks like this wide receiver beat him on the scramble drill, Pinnock is able to come up and punch out this ball. Maybe my favorite part about Pinnock though as a football player is how smart he is for a 25-year-old. Here for instance, he's playing off coverage, but because he's able to quickly identify this wide receiver screen, he shoots it and makes this tackle for only a couple yard gain. And because he's so athletic, you can walk him up like he's going to blitz like here, then drop him off in zone coverage. Here it looks like he's coming on the blitz, but because he's able to identify the wide receiver and tight end breaking out, so does he, and he stops this tight end for a 1-yard gain. Pinnock also does a nice job of understanding the weaknesses in his defense and then mitigating him. Here, he understands Dak Prescott knows that it's man coverage because he's motioning this guy all over the field, and then when 88 breaks hard across the offensive line, Pinnock knows that his defensive back won't be able to keep up with him, so he shoots this route and is able to tackle him before the touchdown. This is what separates maybe a good player from a potentially great player. I also think he does a good job of reading a quarterback's eyes and then jumping a route. Here, for instance, he's able to identify this deep crosser from the Washington Commanders and then nearly gets the interception on this play. In a similar way here against the Raiders, they're running a corner route, and underneath they have a wide receiver running an out route. First, Pinnock disrupts the top corner route, and then with the quarterback targeting the underneath out route, he jumps that and causes the PBU. In a similar way here, he's reading Jordan Love's eyes the entire time, and as a deep safety, he's able to jump this route, pick him off, and run it back for a couple of yards. And I love how Pinnock is always trying to make a big play once he does get the ball in his hands. Here against the Miami Dolphins, for instance, on this tip drill, he picks it off and runs it back all the way 102 yards for a touchdown. Where Saleh is probably going to have his most fun with Pinnock headed into this upcoming season is designing plays where he blitzes. According to PFF, he had the highest pass rush grade of any safety with 92.3. And I think he does a good job not just running by bigger offensive linemen, but when they keep a back end to block him, he routinely beats them on pass rush moves. Like here against the Commanders, he's able to get the sack on Jaden Daniels. I also like how when he blitzes, he's under control, so if they do decide to hand off, like here against the Cardinals, he's able to bring this back down for a loss. So even when you blitz on the running play, it's a potentially lost play for the offense. San Francisco should also be able to use him in the box safety role in a similar way they used Tafunga and Mustafa last year. Here, for instance, he's playing this almost like a linebacker. You can see how he takes his read step, he's sliding with this offense, and then as soon as he sees this gap in the offensive line, he's shooting it with this running back and is able to make the open field tackle. In a similar way here against the Jets, he's playing this almost like a linebacker. He's manned up on this tight end, but because he's motioning towards the teeth of his defense, he's able to read this play, sees the gap forming in the offensive line, shoots it, and gets a tackle on the back for no gain. In a similar way to his pass coverage, he also does a good job of staying aware throughout the play. Here with Jalen Hurts taking off, for instance, he's able to quickly identify it, then meets him at the goal line and actually stops him from scoring the touchdown on this play. Overall, when I'm looking at this Jason Pinnock signing, I think it has the potential to be the biggest steal of this offseason for San Francisco. He's only 25, he fits into Robert Saleh's scheme to perfection, and he does all the little things right. I mean, he's exactly what Robert Saleh wants out of a safety, and that's a big reason he drafted him in the 5th round of the 2021 NFL Draft. And so far over his NFL career, I would argue he's only continued to develop. And for the last 2 years, he's been extremely healthy, playing in a total and starting 32 games. And while admittedly he didn't see the same level as production during the 2024 season, I would argue that was more of a scheme thing, and moving back to San Francisco's scheme where he's going to be used as a defensive chess piece, he should see his production re-kick off. But ultimately, these are just my thoughts on San Francisco signing Jason Pinnock, and I'd like to hear your thoughts on them signing Pinnock. Do you think this is a good safety for them, and what do you think he'll offer headed into the season? It would also mean a ton to me if you could like and subscribe, and I am working on all of these free agents, so each one will get their video.